I said we had an abundance of riches, and I wasn't joking. I want to bring into our coverage LGBTQ advocate, author, Chasten Buttigieg. He, of course, is the author of I Have Something to Tell You. Chasten, I want to read another piece of Justice Sotomayor's dissent, and then the floor is yours with our other good friends assembled here. Quote, imagine, this is from Justice Sotomayor, imagine a same-sex couple browses the public market with their child. The market could be online or in a shopping mall. Some stores sell products that are customized and expressive. The family sees a notice announcing that services will be refused for same-sex weddings. What message does that send? It sends the message that we live in a society with social castes. It says to the child of the same-sex couple that their parents' relationship is not equal to others. And it reminds LGBT people of a painful feeling that they know all too well. There are some public places where they can be themselves and some where they cannot. Now, Chasten, I know from reading your memoir that's now been adapted to for younger audiences, that's re-traumatizing. If what Justice Sotomayor describes happens, that's the trigger, that's the shame trigger to the journey that so many men and women take when they come out in the first place. I mean, this is a profound, damaging, and devastating opinion. Your reaction?
Yeah, I found out about the ruling as I was getting my kids ready to go shopping today and was trying to ignore Twitter while I was in Target and did not anticipate using that precious amount of nap time when the kids are napping to read a SCOTUS opinion today. And Sotomayor's dissent did really strike me because those are the things I was thinking about. What does this say to my kid? What does a ruling like this say to all LGBTQ people in America, that there are still people in this country who make it their entire life's work to discriminate against you, and as Sotomayor called it, a certain sort of caste system to make LGBTQ people feel as if they are not equal and full members of society. And as a dad, as a queer American, those are things that I'm obviously thinking about and hugging my husband and my kids a little bit closer today, realizing that there are people in this country with these solutions in search of a problem, especially in this case. Like your previous guest said, there was no gay couple looking for a website. This is a person who paired up with the ADF, who introduced the Dobbs case. They are constantly serving up solutions in search of problems. And as we've seen, especially this year, especially during Pride Month, there's an entire political party who has decided to abdicate the idea of leadership in solutions and rather focus on minimizing and attacking LGBTQ Americans.
Chasten, something we've talked about is that enshrining discrimination has real world consequences. And I was, listening to Drive Radio, probably one of like 11 people that still does that, but it had the weather and the air was dirty. And so I was doing that. And they were announcing the Pride events in my area. And then they went through the security threats against them. And I almost crashed. I was like, oh my God, what country are we living in? Yeah. That the announcement with weather and traffic comes with the Pride events and the threat warning for all of them. I mean, making discrimination part of your policy gives it a permission structure and a legitimacy that puts in motion all sorts of other things, like the threats of violence. How are we living in this moment?
You're absolutely correct. And that vagueness and the confusion is one of their goals, similar to the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Many teachers and librarians were asking, well, what does this exactly mean? What can I do? What shouldn't I do? And because there's that void, because there's that gray area, you see people going back into the closet. You see teachers maybe not even mentioning their spouse or their family. That fear and that confusion is the goal. So the moment this decision was handed down today, one of my questions was, what does this mean? So I got on the phone with some of the LGBTQ lawyers I know and was asking that question. And that's the point, is that there are some people in this country now who believe that it is just open season again on LGBTQ people, that you can discriminate against LGBTQ people. The Supreme Court said it. There are folks who are not going to log on and read all 78 pages or whatever it was of the opinion today. And because there's that void, a political party has captured that and realized that rather than focusing on real work, real solutions that would protect my kids, my family, everyone's family, make your life easier, better, safer. They spend that time and attention on attacking vulnerable groups because it raises them a lot of money. You know, they get their 3 C's out of it: clicks, clout, and cash. And it's so much easier to get those things out of attacking vulnerable people rather than making people's lives safer or better.
When you made your calls, what did the lawyers tell you? I mean, what does it mean?
That's the confusing, and I was calling, right at 11 o'clock, and so they're like, let me finish reading the opinion.
Let me call you back,
Yeah. But that's the conversation we were having about that confusion and what that gap leads to. It's kind of almost like the fear of this right-wing attack sort of picking away at the corner of a wrapper. This is kind of like peeling up the corner of that seal. What can they get away with? And all of our fears, I think, in the LGBTQ community is, what does that lead to? And you already have a Supreme Court Justice Thomas, who has not only hinted at, but sort of full-throated said that we should reconsider Obergefell. And so there are a lot of people like me and like my family today wondering, what does this exactly mean for the future of LGBTQ civil rights in this country?
It's just an unimaginable place to be. Chasten, I know that you have lots of demands on your time. I have one more question for you. 71, I think polls range from about low 70s to up to 80% of all Americans support marriage equality. There it is, 71%. It's even higher than the Dobbs decision. I mean, after Dobbs, I think more people support safe and legal abortion now, but it's about 65%. I mean, this is really against these kinds of decisions, and putting into law policies and laws that make discrimination part of the policy structure is so wildly unpopular. What do you think the impact is of a Supreme Court that is so outside the mainstream? As Andrew was saying, President Biden made clear he's not looking at Supreme Court reform because he's afraid of politicizing, of doing just what Republicans seek to do. But where does that leave us?
Yeah, when you diminish trust in the court, you diminish trust amongst all Americans. I mean, this is where we should turn to for high guidance, where we should be turning to see opinions like Obergefell that granted marriage equality, where the majority of Americans are with you on that opinion. It's usually the court is catching up to the people. And now you see it the other way around. You see the American people are overwhelmingly support LGBTQ equality, overwhelmingly support a woman's right to choose. And yet you see a politicized court roll some of those rights back. And that's dangerous because it really kind of fires up and gives people the ability to lean into some of that hatred that the court and progress in our country has sort of showed them that they kind of have to keep at bay. And it's kind of, again, putting a target on the backs of vulnerable people. When you have decisions like this, that will allow other people to believe, hey, it's okay to discriminate again. It's okay to say some of those bigoted views again. And I'm glad you pointed out that data, though, because we have to remember this. The majority of Americans are on our side. The majority of Americans support LGBTQ equality. And so if anyone is watching tonight, I hope that they know that. And if they're disheartened by that, disheartened by this opinion today, just know that the majority of the American people are with you, and that even though these decisions are heartbreaking and frustrating, you have a lot of people supporting you, a lot of people have your back, and we will just keep fighting.